Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, and I'm joined by attorney Stephen Jessup, and we're going to talk about one of our resolved cases that attorney Jessup worked on. And Stephen, I know this was with Cigna, which is now New York Life, and in this video I want to get into kind of the background of the case, what our client was suffering with, what Cigna/New York Life did wrong, and kind of how you were able to help our client to successfully get his benefits reinstated. So can you start off by giving us the background of the case?
Yeah, so the client worked for Republic Services, a large waste management. He was a truck driver, garbage truck driver, collector. Had multiple herniations in his back, MRI evidence of it, surgeries to be scheduled, EMG nerve conduction studies to show the lumbar radiculopathy, all this stuff, and his short-term disability claim had been denied. We did the appeal on it. As part of the appeal, we did functional capacity testing, got additional statements from his doctors and all this stuff. And Cigna's short-term disability department came back that they were upholding the denial.
I want to stop you 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
When he was denied for short-term disability, what was the definition of disability in the policy?
It's your standard you'll see in a short-term, unable to perform the material and substantial duties of your own occupation. So here is a trash collector. I mean, on its face, I was shocked that it would be denied, just given what the medical problems are and the physical nature. Yes, being a trash collector, it's kind of changed, a lot more is automated, but at the end of the day, he said his biggest thing was even just driving the truck, sitting in the chair to even be able to drive it.
Yeah, but a trash collector being automated, you mean because the truck can pull up and has an arm, but still people put stuff on.
It's very physical.
You still have to, it's heavy duty.
There was no question to them that it was at least a medium-duty job under the Department of Labor standards. So I was really surprised to see the denial.
And what did they rely upon to deny the short-term disability benefits?
Just did internal peer reviews. So they had initially a nurse, case manager was the one that said that she didn't believe there was evidence of restrictions and limitations. So it was denied on that.
Just the nurse?
Just the nurse initially. And then when we did the appeal, they did have two outside peer review doctors take a look at the file and also again determine that there were no restrictions and limitations.
So I have a question for you. How can they determine whether or not he has restrictions or limitations if they never bothered to examine him or even speak with, or any of their doctors speak with him?
That's the million-dollar question, honestly, and people ask us that all the time, like how can this doctor who's never seen me, never a lot of times spoken to the doctor, render a decision? Unfortunately, the reason why is that all the insurance companies know that legally speaking, it's sufficient for them just to have the file reviewed. That's why we've always harped on how important it is that your medical records be documented well, that you have treatment, because they're just going to do that. They are treating the notes, if you will. So if the notes aren't being taken well by your doctors, there's going to be a problem there. In this situation, I thought it was incredibly egregious. And this wasn't the first time I had a trash collector under a public services policy, exact same situation. And this is also to Cigna as a bigger thing. Now the interesting thing will be is now that New York Life has taken over, which we were talking before we started filming here, you call them and says Cigna, now a New York Life, but their letterhead is still all Cigna. So we do know that they maintained basically all of Cigna's people and now they're just New York Life employees. It'll be interesting to see if this trend is going to continue, but in my experience through the years and in both times with these clients under the same policy, which is unusual to be under the same policy, after the denial of the short-term disability benefits, technically your next option is to file a lawsuit on short-term. Generally that's not the route I take, especially when it comes to a Cigna policy. We filed applications for long-term disability. Now you would think it would be denied. Under most other carriers, a lot of times they'll deny the long-term claim and say, well, you weren't disabled during the elimination period, which is your short-term disability period, so therefore you're not disabled. And in filing then it gives us a right to appeal the long-term. If that's not, we can sue everything together. Cigna is a weird situation, and for this client, we filed the application. Basically,
so you filed the application for long-term
disability, despite the short-term being denied.
But just to back you up, what did you do with the short-term disability denial?
Right there, we just let it go because we have time to be able to file a lawsuit on it. So we got it. We got the updated claim file information. I filed the claim for long-term disability benefits, which basically we filled out the initial forms, see attached, which was to short-term disability appeal.
But you had already done the appeal.
Appeal is already done and denied.
Oh, okay.
So nothing else can happen with short-term. It's done and denied. Filed for long-term, and then long-term disability approved the claim.
So in a way, it was almost like your second appeal, because you had done one appeal for the short-term disability. Then you said, you know what, if I apply for long-term disability, I'm going to the same company but a different person. They're going to look at all the same information. So I'm really getting a second look at it, and that was your strategy?
Yeah, because I've done it through the years. Only with Cigna's the only one that, habitually I've had success in doing this. Why? I don't know. Whether the disconnect between how short-term handles claims, and I've told people sometimes you can think of short-term disability claims managers as like the minor leagues. They just kind of push things and get rid of them, where long-term they must be doing some better review because of the success in getting it overturned. And in this situation, we filed a long-term disability claim, as I'd done in the past, and we got notice within, I'd say, about 30 days that they were approving the long-term disability claim. At that point, what I did for the client, because long-term disability is predicated on you being disabled during your elimination period, and the elimination period is just short-term disability. So by long-term approving, they're saying you're disabled for short-term. So I wrote a letter back to the short-term disability claims department, and I, said we've here attached as a copy of the long-term approval. Please,
from your same company.
From your same company, pay the benefits, or we're going to sue. And then they paid the short-term disability benefits then as well.
So the application was like a second appeal.
In a way, yeah. Especially since Cigna's done away with the voluntary appeal. They no longer offer it. So it's this weird, unique situation with Cigna claims where if they're denying your short-term disability throughout, you have that ability. Recently, I have a new client, same situation. She appealed her short-term. It was denied. And in situations like that, self-funded generally by the employer. Right. So at this point in juncture, just in this history of being able to successfully do this with Cigna, we're in the process of preparing and submitting a long-term application for.
In this particular claim for the waste management trash collector, is that what they're called now instead of a garbage?
It's funny what they try to do. I think it was trash collector was the term that was used.
Looking at the file from before you did your appeal and before you did this great, work on the application, what tip could you give to this particular person, someone watching this video, that would have helped possibly avoid the denial that came in the short term?
In this particular situation, I don't know, because he had it. In prior situations, I could see where there wasn't good treatment. The doctors weren't being supportive. His objective evidence was really amazing. I was very surprised at the denial in the first place. Then to get a denial on the appeal, especially after we did a functional capacity evaluation to show, all right, well, you've got all the MRI objective evidence of the problem, and here we're drawing the nexus with actual workability. It was a head scratcher, but in situations otherwise, it really goes back to those medical records, making sure it's being documented. Sometimes, especially on short-term disability, I find it at least, that people they're not feeling good and they want to go on disability, but they haven't necessarily been to a doctor to discuss it, or they haven't had good treatment. So when the insurance company gets the case, there's not a lot of medical information to support it. Or you find, especially in autoimmune conditions or maybe situations where fibromyalgia may be diagnosed later, there's not an initial diagnosis.
For people with back disorders, which I think you indicated earlier was the disabling condition in this particular claim, what was the strongest evidence you had that you think help this claim improve his claim with regard to the back disorder?
To improve it
to help him prove it. To prove it. Yeah.
The functional capacity evaluation, because you already had the MRI and nerve conduction studies in place. Okay. Now, if he didn't have MRIs or the nerve conduction, because his records were just talking about radiating pain, the testing was all done because the doctor was doing a wonderful workup for surgery. So if you have these complaints, or you have a back problem and you haven't been to the doctor, it's important to get an idea of what's going on. This gentleman too had tried physical therapy, injections. He had went through a handful of things. He didn't want to stop working. Right. He's a young guy, has a family to support. He was doing what he can to hold on, but then it gets to a point where it's just in too much pain, and then you become worried, well, if they fire me, I don't have a job, and it's, I'm medical, so I have to do something. So then he filed for the disability, but he had already done so much beforehand, medically speaking, to kind of, build up his claim.
It seems like it was a really egregious denial by New York Life or Cigna in this particular case, because especially when most people have a sedentary job, which is more of a desk type job. And this was a medium to heavy duty. Everyone, if we said people, what are the top 5 things you can think of that are heavy duty jobs? Most people would think a trash collector.
Yeah.
And so it's shocking here, and that is defined as someone who has to lift 50 pounds or more, which a lot of people can't even lift on their own. So great job. I'm sure the client's thrilled.
Yeah, it was nice. It was good news to find out when it was approved.
So if you're someone who has a New York Life or formerly a Cigna disability policy, feel free to reach out to Stephen or myself. No matter where you live in the country, we can help you. We'd love to review your claim no matter what status it's at and provide you with an immediate free consultation. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Hi, I'm Gregory Dell, the managing attorney of Dell Disability Lawyers, and I hope you find the video you just watched helpful. We put these videos out all of the time, and we'd love if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Beyond our videos on our YouTube channel, we also have lots of information available on our website at diattorney.com, and we encourage you to come to our website. The goal is that we want you to be educated about the disability insurance process, and when you get to our website, you'll see that we have information all about your specific disability insurance company, your occupation, and your medical condition. And we've designed our website such that you can easily search our website to find things that you may specifically be looking for. Now, at our website, we have thousands and thousands of pages of information, hundreds of videos that you can search, plus we're building a section of reviews of all the disability insurance companies, and we have the Ask Our Lawyer section where you can go ahead and ask us any questions that you may have. Now, we realize that you may not need us right now, but you may need us in the future to help you with your disability claim, and we think one of the best ways to keep in touch is by clicking the button below and subscribing to our channel. And most importantly, again, no matter where you live in the country, we're always available. Just go ahead and give us a call. We're happy to discuss your claim and let you know immediately if we can help you.